Hi, everybody. My name is Nanika Edwards. Among many other things, I'm a poet, so I wear many different hats, but one of them is a French boulet, and that's my poet hat. Today I'd like to recommend 10 poems that I would encourage you to read or listen to heading into 2025, heading into the new year. So you can settle into your favorite couch with a lovely cup of tea or coffee or a glass of wine. I mean, whatever suits your fancy and whatever is healthiest for you. And you can enjoy some poetry. You can do this on your own. You can get together with a group of people, a group of friends, or a group of colleagues. However, you want to enjoy these poems, you just do your thing. Okay, so let me see how quickly I can get through this list. 10 poems that I recommend, especially if you find yourself in the world of work and you're looking for some inspiration or even just some light entertainment, something to chuckle about, something to think about, or both. So here goes. These are in no particular order. Number one, The Law of the Jungle by British poet Rudyard Kipling, and he is actually one of my favorite poets. Anyway, what I love about The Law of the Jungle, or what you might find useful, is that it's all about group dynamics and survival in that jungle out there called life. Number two, Two and Six by Jamaican poet Claude McKay. This poem is written in Jamaican patois, so if you're not familiar with Jamaican patois, you may find it somewhat challenging, but even so, I would still encourage you to give it a go and see how much of it you understand. Men who read this who are fathers, I hope, would feel encouraged to be good fathers, no matter how challenging that may be. And, for the wives out there who have husbands who may be struggling professionally, this is a wonderful poem that shows the beauty in a very subtle way, I think, of you being a supportive wife. So, Two and Six, one of my all time favorite poems. I highly recommend it. Number three, Pride of Life. That's by yours truly, as in me. It's on my channel, Big People Talk, on YouTube. To find Big People Talk, you'll probably need to add my name after that, Nanika Edwards, and then the channel would come up. So Big People Talk, Nanika Edwards. And Pride of Life is all about teaching people or encouraging people not to care about what other people think in a superficial or toxic kind of way. So it's all about not getting caught up trying to keep up with the Joneses. I mean, think about it. What if Mr. and Mrs. Jones are really just phonies? I mean, that's not what the poem is necessarily about. But I mean, just think about the logic of that. You're fighting to keep up with people, and they may not even be necessarily who you really think they are. So, what's the point of trying to do that? Just live your own life, follow your own path, and you're going to be much happier. So that's what that poem is about. Pride of Life. It is recited in a Jamaican accent, but the text is provided, so it should be pretty easy to follow along. Number four, The Gate Man by Owen Blacka Ellis, a Jamaican poet. This poem is hilarious. It's very funny, very, very tickling. It's written in Jamaican patois, and I would summarize this poem by saying, take your job seriously, but not too seriously. Anyway, check out this poem. I think you'll enjoy it. And number five, The Ladder of St. Augustine by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Now, I don't recommend reading the whole poem unless you really, really want to tackle it. For me, I started reading it and it felt a bit heavy. The wording is really kind of archaic and so on. Not the kind of poetry that I gravitate towards, but there is a section of this poem that is very popular and very well known. And if you look for Heights of Great Men, by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, you're going to find that portion of the poem, and it speaks beautifully to the importance of invisible investments of energy. Invisible in the sense that nobody else is seeing when you are working. So it's like, it's kind of like promoting the concept of an iceberg, that what you see above the surface is only a small portion. The real thing is what you're not seeing below the surface of the water. It's like, very much like when you see a building, you may see a huge building and think, wow, what a fantastic building, but may not realize the extensive work that was done in laying down a foundation for that building. The whole principle of sowing and reaping. You put in all the effort, the labor to sow seed and make sure that you have a harvest later on. This particular portion of the poem speaks about the importance of working hard when others are typically complacent. So, a great portion of poetry, especially for people who may be entrepreneurs. You're going out doing your own thing. As you get started, you find it's a grind and you have to really hustle, and as we put it, and really put out a lot of sweat and effort. This portion of poetry would be perfect for you. Number six, the Muffin Fairy series. So this is like a series of books for kids, actually. And yes, I do think that adults can benefit from kids' books. These happen to be one such set of books that I believe fall into that category. The Muffin Fairy series is by Thomas Nelson. You can find it on Amazon. And I call it the Muffin Fairy series, but really, there are all kinds of fairies in this series. You have the Muffin Fairies, Ice Cream Fairy, Cookie Fairy, Candy Cane Fairy, all kinds of different fairies, right? What I love about this book is that you can learn creative problem solving. It's really interesting, at least in the set of books that I have. I have a set with 4 books in them. It's a cute, like, it's a very girly kind of series. There's a lot of pink, and it's fairies. So it's for girls, right? Typically, clearly designed for girls. That's obvious. But anyway, um, what I love about the books that I have is that, first of all, the stories are rhyming stories, and second of all, the fairies always encounter some unusual problem, and then they find this really equally unusual way to solve the problem. And even though it's very imaginative and the scenarios are not necessarily realistic, the whole concept of being creative and finding creative solutions to things is what I love about this series. And I think it can be a benefit not only to kids, but also adults. So I recommend this series very highly. Number 7, Yertle the Turtle by Dr. Seuss. There are about, I think, 3 or 4 different stories in this book, Yertle the Turtle being the very first one. What I love about this book is that you can learn what ails most men and what makes most people on this planet desperately unhappy. They really kind of are the equivalent of what not to wear or what not to do so that you can find fulfillment, contentment, and personal success in life. So Yertle the Turtle has stories about like politics, and you could even extend that, if you want to office politics, because politics is the same principles that apply across the board, really. Peacocking, it's, has stories about peacocking and toxic comparing, the things that make us unhappy. And of course, it's all in Dr. Seuss's usual style of sharp humor, tickling language. I mean, these poems are absolute masterpieces. I definitely recommend them. Okay, moving right along. Number 8 on my list is Peppermouth Polly by yours truly. That's me. You can find it on my YouTube channel, Nanika Edwards, which is in my name. Yes, I have 2 YouTube channels. Nanika Edwards is for kids, and Big People Talk is for teens and adults. But even though Peppermouth Polly is on my kids' channel, it's a perfect poem for adults. It's all about learning how to flush our toilet mouth. And the language, funnily enough, is very sanitized, right? Of course, it's very sanitized. I mean, I can't promote a poem about not using expletives if it's laced with expletives. So you can check out that poem, Peppermouth Polly, on my YouTube channel, Nanika Edwards. And yeah, a lot of times we don't think about what we say or how we say it. We can be very cross, we can be very crude, we can be downright defiling, not only to ourselves, but to the people around us who have to listen to our toilet talk. So that's what this poem is about. And I definitely recommend that you view it if you are inclined to be a bit of a what we would call in Trinidad a cuss bud. I would encourage you to check out that poem and have a discussion about it with other people and decide how you want to move forward with that. Number 9, Mr. Oxford Dawn by Guyanese poet John Agard. This poem provides a very edgy, very insightful, very, very hard hitting redefinition of what proper English is. It's kind of a critique, I think, of colonialism as well, if I remember it correctly. So I definitely recommend this poem simply because it's thought provoking. It provides you with an opportunity to see a particular topic from a different perspective from what you would typically think about it, like the value of other forms of English apart from standard English, the hierarchy that exists within the world of languages, even within the realm of just English, and the different accents, the different dialects that you're going to find within this particular linguistic branch. And as companies speak a lot about communication and effective communication, this just provides a talking point, something to discuss, something to think about as you and your company think about what communication means and what communication means to different people. And finally, number 10, I recommend one of my poems. It's called Lights Out, right? So it's one of my prepare to meet your maker poems. And it makes a point that we need to prepare to meet our maker now because life can be kind of funny. And I don't mean humorous funny. It can be funny. You never know, as we say in Trinidad, when your number go call. Meaning, like when you go to like a government, you go to a bank or you go to a government agency, you may have to take a number and you sit there waiting, but you never know exactly when your number is going to be called. It's that kind of idea. As we say in Trinidad, you never know when your number go call. You never know when your number is going to be called. In other words, life is like that. We just never know when God is going to say, okay, your time is up. Your time is up. Now, please prepare to give an account of the life that you've lived. Many of us go through life oblivious to this reality that one day we must meet our Maker and give an account for how we've lived. Professional life is a huge part, a huge chunk of what our life ends up being about. And we're going to have to account for that as well. What kind of employer we've been, what kind of employee we've been, how we've conducted business. Have we been honest? Have we been people of integrity? All kinds of things like that. We have to give an account to our Maker for these things, among other things. Good or bad, we give account for everything, good and bad, not just the bad, the good and the bad. So, Lights Out is designed to get people really coming to terms with the reality that your number could call any time. So as you head into 2025, I hope that that is a poem that would get you thinking about your life, how you're living your life, how you're even connecting with God in this life, right? So those are things to think about. I do think that's probably the most important thing to think about as we all head into 2025. So that's it. Just bear in mind that a lot of the poems that I've listed here you can find online, you can find them on YouTube. My poems, as I've mentioned, you can find on YouTube or you can find them online, like maybe not in videos, but as poetry that you can read. So that's it. I hope that this was interesting for you. I hope that it proves useful. Please feel free to share your experience with me when you read these poems. I would love to know how you found them and do enjoy exploring the practical side of poetry. Until the next time.